I am back with a video. In my videos, I really like to have just a fluid way of speaking. I don't like to go into it with a ton of specifics on exactly what I need to say or anything like that. I just prefer these videos to be just me speaking about something that I have thought about recently that I feel is helpful and in the realm of the things that I talk about on my channel. So, I just was thinking today about how your mind is superior to everything. Your inner world is superior to everything. And I think that it's very easy to forget this when you are just circumstantially, externally outside of yourself, kind of surrounded by situations and people that don't align to you, that don't make you feel good. You sort of start to, and I'm speaking from personal experience, that's all I want to speak from on my channel. But speaking from personal experience, you do start to feel like you don't have a say in how things go. And even if you're somebody who does practice, law of assumption or anything in that realm, just understanding that your imagination is creating your reality sort of in that realm, it's still easy to forget. It's still easy to feel like these external things outside of me, they're affecting me, they're making me angry, they're making me upset, they're causing me this issue, that issue. And I've sort of been dealing with that in ways in my life recently. And if anything, I think it's been harder for me to even want to sit and speak about anything, because I just felt like for so long I felt like I was acquiring wisdom, but I didn't, think so much was happening that it was hard for me to really sit and process anything. And I still feel like I'm in that process of things where I feel like I'm still in that process of processing things that have happened. And I think the most important thing to remember, and something that I'm even remembering today as I speak, because I didn't plan on making a video today. I never really do. I don't really plan when I film or record these recordings. I always have some kind of part to play in what is externalizing. It does, on some level, go back to roots of how I feel about myself in some way. However, again, it's more or less that there are many things that I feel still externalized that we don't exactly know where to pinpoint. We don't know where exactly this came from. We don't know exactly why this is externalizing. And I think that sometimes these things, in my experience, I think they can externalize somewhat randomly, in random situations and random occurrences. Sometimes it's not random at all. It's very aligns very much to what you know that you're feeling about yourself. Even if it's not what you want to be feeling about yourself, it's still kind of what you're experiencing, because you're just holding on to that version of yourself for some reason. And it happens from fear. It happens, especially for me, I think it happens from fear. I think it happens from like this sense of feeling kind of paralyzed, which I get into that state at times. And I'm not afraid to say that. I think it's important to say that, because acting like, I'm just perfect at all of this is not the case. It's not the truth. And I don't think it's the truth for anyone. So it's just not worth even attempting that kind of perfection. So much can happen externally in your life, and you always have the choice of how much of it you're going to internalize. Because it's kind of like a cycle. It's like things are happening because of things have some tie to me in some way. It is this like thing where these external happenings and circumstances, what people are saying, these things are rooted to me in my experience. And they're not random. I think the problem is when we think that they're random, like, and what I mean by random is they're just happening without me having a part. I think the problem with feeling and thinking that way is that you do start feeling like a justified victim. You start feeling like, well, I have every right to be a victim because the world is like this and people are like that, and why would I even try because this is just how it is and that's how that is. There's no such thing as this is how it is. There isn't. And I know that because even in circumstances in my own life that I have come across, that I said to myself, this is not what I want in my life. This is not how I want my life to be. This isn't how I want to be treated. These aren't the kind of relationships I want to have. And I'm still coming to those realizations at this time. I'm not afraid to speak in the midst of it. I'm not afraid to say, oh, yeah, I am in the midst of something right now. And I don't want to come on here and just speak when I feel like I'm not in that midst and now I'm perfect and I know everything, and that's not going to happen. I'm always going to be learning. You're always going to be learning, and that should be a good thing. That should be the goal, the end goal. Or not the end goal, but, the everyday goal, I should say. There is no such thing as this is how it is out here. That's just how it is with jobs. That's just how it is with relationships. That's just how it is with men. That's just how it is with women. That's just how it is with finding love, period, with etc. circumstances, right? But when you start thinking in those terms, what happens is you give your power away to all these different things. You start feeling like there's 100 different causes to everything. And I think that is a dangerous place to be when you think that there's so many causes, because what happens, at least in my experience, and this is just what I have experienced in my life so far, is that thinking that there is all these causes sort of just creates a powerlessness within you that I think is hard to overcome. I think it's hard to feel motivated when you feel that powerless about your life and about yourself and about any number of circumstances. I know for me, what has gotten me to this point in my life, what's gotten me to having the general mindset that I have, not saying that it's perfect all the time, that's just not true, but being at the point where I feel like I have a strong sense of self, very strong sense of self, and I know that I'm able to overcome any challenge that may kind of be there. That came from me understanding that, or more so daring to accept that there was one cause, and that was my internal self. That was me. And when you accept something like that, I actually can feel myself letting go of every burden in my mind, in my heart, in my body. Just all these burdens go away. When you're like, it's all, the cause is within. The cause is self. When you actually feel the truth of that and you feel the reality of that, you let so much burden go, because you no longer feel like there's no hope for you, or there's no power. You don't have any power. You do have power. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of feeling and thinking this way. And I think for me, what is weird is that sometimes, even though I've lived, many years with this mindset in some way or another, I think that sometimes I do kind of fall, and I start thinking that, yes, I'm the cause, but this thing kind of has like 20% causation, and this thing has like 40% causation. I think that's also a dangerous place to be in a lot of ways, because at least for me, like, my energy starts to just feel fragmented. Like, I don't even know what reality is anymore, because I'm so worried about, oh, this person said no to me. That person didn't say no to you, you said no to yourself. I know what's helped me in my life is feeling like I was in power of my life, of myself, of my circumstances, and I am. And I'm telling you that when I say that somebody saying no to you is you saying no to yourself, is that I know from personal experience that on some level, I'm not accepting the yes from that before it's happening. And what I mean by this is, let's say you were applying for a job, you apply for the job, and now you're waiting to, or maybe let's say you had a job interview. So you had the job interview, you feel like you did your best, but you feel like you don't know if you got the job or not. And whatever you are subconsciously leaning toward, yes or no, is going to make that choice for you. So what that really means is you're, at the end of the day, making that choice. And I know this for myself, even when I'm faced in that exact scenario, or very similar scenarios, where I feel like I don't really know. My own doubt is getting in the way. But it's weird because it's doubt, but I don't know if it's fully doubt. I feel like a part of it is that deep within ourselves, we know what we want. We do know. Regardless if we admit that to ourselves or not, or if we lie to ourselves. But this being that, many call this being God. And this is not a being you can mock or lie to. So within ourselves, we know what we want. You can't lie about that. So in my experience, what I feel from these scenarios is on some level, I didn't want that thing that much. I didn't. Even if I thought I should want that thing, or that doesn't matter, because shoulds aren't the same thing as wanting, desiring. And within ourselves, the goal every single day is to not be in desire, to feel as though I already have what I do desire. And I think for me, and I think for many others, this is probably the case, but we want things because we think that they are the next step in this journey that we're on. You don't know what the next step is. And I think it's best not to meddle with that. And that's what I'm starting to learn is I just want this because I think it's going to get me somewhere. I think it's going to get me to the next thing. I don't actually want this thing that badly. And I don't want to admit that to myself. And I want to just sort of be like, oh, it's out of my hands, I guess it didn't work out, sort of thing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with trying, but I think that it's more or less about not worrying about what the road is and just keep walk along with what you know in your heart. I'm seriously struggling to speak today, but you walk along knowing that what you desire, what you once desired, is already yours, and you're already that person. So why would I care about what the road is, or what's the job that's going to get me to the next job, that's going to get me to the next job, that's going to get me to that job? Why would I care? It doesn't matter. That's not really my place to figure that out. I might be in control of my inner world. My inner world creates my outer world, but this world out here is kind of got its own way of figuring things out that I could never possibly figure out. And Edward Art, who is my favorite person who speaks on anything like this, the whole reason that I even wanted to make a channel in the first place, but he always says I would have had no idea how that would have came about. And it's true. I've had something in my life that I wanted so badly did come into my life last year, and I could have literally never imagined that that's how that would have happened at all. There's no way. I could have thought of, I'm not kidding, I probably could have thought of like 500 scenarios and not thought of that scenario. And that's my point, is I think when we just get so fixated on the small things, we want to, it's kind of like a paradox, because we're not controlling the world, but we are sort of within ourselves dictating who we are. I am this person who I once wanted to be. I am this thing that I once wanted to be. I don't need this external validation to tell me that I'm that thing. I don't need to get that job to tell me that I'm already the person who does that job. You don't need that. So I think it's giving up the need. Give up the need of that, because that's not what it's about. It's hard to do, trust me. It's hard to do, especially when you're in a mindset where you're just like, God, I just want to get forward. I just want to move forward. I just want this. I just want things to move. But you never know. You can't understand what is moving when what you're not seeing that is moving. Trust me, it is moving. Even though you don't see it, or even though it's not very apparent to you, or it seems small, whatever it is moving. And it's not about the small little things, worrying about the small little parts of a bigger thing in your life. Especially when you are bringing about, or for lack of a better word, manifesting something that is kind of big, which is great, and you should always... It's not about, some people don't want things that are big, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's just going after what it is you truly desire. But I think when it's something kind of bigger, there's really no such thing, actually, at the end of the day. Everything's the same. So we just make that all up in our heads, that this thing's bigger, that thing's smaller. It's not. There's no such thing. But I think when it's something, I should say, that people would define as big out here. Okay, let's just put it that way. Let's speak in those terms. Something somebody would identify, your friend would say that's a big thing, right? When it's something like that, I think because we are all conditioned under a certain mindset that we've been brought up by in this world, we think to ourselves, man, this is going to be hard, this is going to take forever. This is, we just start placing all these restrictions on ourselves that just make it more difficult. And I think we kind of tell ourselves no before anyone else does. I think you tell yourself no before anyone else tells you no. And the goal is to tell yourself yes before anybody tells you yes. And that has, so far in my journey, that has been something I've had to return to over and over. And, especially, I'll speak, from personal experience. I'm an actor. I do a lot of auditions, and not as, hey, I shouldn't say, I don't know what we define as a lot, but for me, if I guess if somebody who wasn't an actor were to see how many auditions it is for an actor to do and how many they get, they would be like, those odds aren't for me. And my point in saying and bringing that up is that is a great example of, if we hold on to every audition and we sit here and we worry like, I didn't get that audition, so I'm now that I'm screwed and I don't know what the next step is. It's not about that. I guess I'm more so speaking about if it's something that is kind of something to build, like a career, like anything like that. I think we get so fixated on the small stuff, and we can't do that. That's not how the journey works. It is letting go of that worry, control, etc. And my point again, what I wanted to say about that is the jobs that I have done so far as an actor, compared to all the ones I've auditioned for, the ones that I have done, I know in my heart were the right ones for me to do, and that is still unfolding. And even the times where, years ago, when I was in a place where I didn't even, and again, this is why I bring up this example, but I'm not from a family of actors. I had actually zero knowledge on acting. I had never taken a class. I didn't know anybody who did that sort of stuff. I didn't know filmmakers. I didn't know how to start. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what headshots to get. I didn't know what classes to take. I didn't know anything. But all I did know was that within myself I had a belief about who I was and what I could do. And slowly that whole, like, everything unfolded for me. And it is still unfolding. And it will continue to unfold. But the first step is just knowing that you are already that thing. And it's not like, this is a deep knowing. This isn't just like a, yes, I'm that thing, like kind of saying it. This is not lip service. This is an internal journey. But I think when we're so worried about how the journey is going to look, and this happens to me still. And it's just, no, I mean, I'm, at the end of the day, it's like, I can have all the wisdom on earth, but I'm still a human being. So I'm still, I want to say unfortunately, but it's not unfortunate, but I am still bound by a human mind, where in my head, humans want to control everything, you know, out here. That's not where we control things. I think that's what's wrong with our minds, with my minds, with anybody's mindset, is trying to control the world and not controlling their internal world. Because when you understand that your internal world does dictate the external, you realize you don't have to control anything, because you're already, on some level, you are already in control of your own life and your own journey. And I knew within myself that I wanted to take my time with things that I was building. I just did. I knew I had, deep within my soul, I knew my soul had work to do. I knew I had work to do on myself, on my confidence as a person. That's not done. That will never be done. But I mean, the progress that's been made is huge. And I think sometimes within ourselves we know those things too. I think sometimes we feel like we are supposed to want something to happen faster because we're not desperate, but we're like impatient. We're like worried. We're scared. Is it going to show up? Is it going to happen? It is going to happen, but it's not going to be too late when it does happen. And I know that. I just know that within my heart, that it's not going to be too late for you when it happens. It won't be too late, I promise. It just doesn't work that way. Your mind is the number one thing that's going to make a difference in your life. More than anything is your mind. Your mind. How you feel about yourself. What you feel. It's not about anything else. It's feeling. Number one, feeling. Thoughts come after your feelings. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that for a long time. I didn't know that. When I first got into this sort of stuff, I just was trying to control my thoughts. I was so confused about all of it. I didn't really understand. I had notebooks filled front to back of trying to take notes on this sort of work because I was so confused. I didn't really get it. It wasn't really working for me. I was trying to repeat stuff in my head all the time, but I just don't think that's the best approach, because it doesn't go in those deeper parts of yourself that's what we're really trying to get to. That's what I was trying to get to. And it's about changing how we feel about ourselves. And it's not about changing, but it's just about like accepting the feelings that you want. It's about accepting the feelings that you want. Accept them without fear. You're allowed to have them. It is safe to have them. You are going to change everything by having them, so don't be afraid to have them. You are safe to have those feelings about yourself. You are safe to accept those things within yourself. You feel something that you once desired, you accept that about yourself, and you are allowed to do that. You are safe to do that. You are. It will matter. It will matter. And there is no amount of force you can do in this world out here that you see me in. There's no amount of force out here that is equivalent to that. There's not. Mind over matter. That's what that means. And that's the end of my recording, I think, because I don't want to repeat myself too much. And I feel like I already have. And I also really hope that this makes some kind of sense. I just want to express important, positive messages that I feel within myself that help me in my life. So, that's all I'm here to do. But I hope it was helpful, and I intend all of my videos with light and wisdom and love. That's it for now. Thank you for watching.